Welcome to Miningweb Weekly with Peter Major from Modern Corporate Solutions. Pete, it's nice to have the world thinking about mining. It certainly is at the moment. It's all about gold. Gold through $5,000, $200 up last night. It just seems to be having a whale of a time. But I suppose you must feel a little bit like Rob Armstrong. Let me tell you about Rob. Rob is the man from Unhedged at the Financial Times. And he had a piece this week to talk about gold. He said if there were an award for being the worst forecaster, he would get it, because when the gold price was $2,500 an ounce, he said, no, it's going down. This is too far. Now it's over $5,000, he says, but it's very difficult for him to work out how he's going to change sides on this one. He is struggling to do that. And he used a whole lot of graphs that we republished it all on the story on BizNews, because we are partners with the Financial Times. You've used a lot of graphs as well to show that, sure, this gold rally at the moment, or boom at the moment, is very hard to justify in historic terms.
Alec, if Rob's got the worst call in the world, I was right behind him. I'm trying to think what it was at your conference, but I was selling gold then. Okay, I remember telling Bronwyn, I'm not naked gold because I can sense this thing's going, but I'm selling anything that looks pricey, including some of the Krugerrands. And yeah, I'm putting it into a gold mine that hasn't gone up in value in 10 years. But who would have guessed 5? But there's so many factors now we're seeing pushing it that we didn't see before. And I don't know if these were hidden before or if there's just new ones adding fuel to the flame. So yeah, when you see companies like, what's the stable coin backer? Not Thimble.
Tether.
Jeez, my
Tether.
brain always
goes. That was the one that...
Tether. Yeah, when you see they're buying 5 and 10 tons of gold a week, and they're like an ETF. They have to buy. The more people that invest in them, they have to buy. If you're running an ETF on the S&P and a bunch of pension funds decide to give you money, you have to buy the proportion of those shares, whether they're high or low, whether you like them or not. So when you're running a gold ETF, people say, oh, I want to invest in your ETF. Here's my money. You have to go out there immediately and buy. So this thing's gaining momentum, the snowball effect. It doesn't matter if it's overvalued, undervalued. It's the momentum, the flow. And the flow is just increasing now, whether it's central banks, Tether, a lookalike Tether, private investors, institutions. The more they buy those ETFs, the more they're pushing it up.
Another of our partners, The Economist, doesn't often write about gold, but they did today. And again, we republished that story as well. And in the article there, they explained that Goldman Sachs has done an analysis which shows that of the total assets of Americans, 0.17% is in gold. So if you look at it from that perspective, well, maybe it's only just starting.
Yeah, and I can add to that, Alec. I do not speak to an American who doesn't ask me about gold and tell me he's either got it or getting it. So that's a pretty big disconnect. If their total asset value in gold is 0.01, and yet they're all talking about it. Hey, talk leads to action.
Okay, so what are we to make of all of this? Because by historic comparisons, everything said to us the gold price was overvalued when it was $4,500, perhaps even earlier than that. But it's got momentum. It's going like a steam train. It's attracting a lot of press now from serious financial publications who have ignored it for a long, long time. What are we to make about the where the yellow metal's going?
Capitalism is made for this, Alec. Capitalism is made to fill vacuums. Where there was a vacuum and now there's demand, that's where capitalism comes in. And this is what we saw in the 70s when South Africa was starting mines left and right because the gold price went up and it made a lot of deposits that were marginal. Hey, gold went flat for 40 years. It stayed at $35 an ounce for 40 years. So South Africa was still opening mines, but very selectively. It was the highest grade mines and ones that could justify the return on investment. But when the 70s came, they started reopening older shafts, and they started opening a lot of new mines. We're going to start seeing that all over the world now. And it's the juniors that have lagged this. The juniors and the new mines that haven't been exploited, that probably weren't economical at $1,000 or $1,500 gold. They were definitely economical at $2,500 gold, that people were too wary putting money in, thinking, oh, this is a top. But now at $5,000, you're very happy to put money in a mine that gave a great IRR at $2,500. So that's what I see. And I foresee that people are going to say, oh, Goldfields, Harmy, it's discounting too much. But hey, here's some juniors that are close to producing, that have good ore bodies, and they're not reflecting that. We were talking about Orion here before, sitting there at 20 cents for a year and a half, and yet the copper price is going up. Well, all the listed copper companies, they went up to people are saying maybe they're getting a little pricey. Here's the copper mine just about ready to start. It hasn't moved at all, even though the copper price is up 50, 60%. So that's what capitalism is going to do. And this government should decide, do we want to be capitalist, or do we want to stay this pseudo-socialist? Because if we want to be capitalist, we can do like a lot of countries north of us. Say, guys, come in. Here's some real low-grade mines. We will denationalize them. You can have them. You'll own them lock, stock, and barrel. Or we're going to cut the royalty on new mines. There was never a royalty here until the MPRDA came out back in 2004, Alec. And the government made a lot more money before they put a royalty on than when they put this royalty on. I know Trevor thought he was a genius, and we're going to get money from the mines whether they claim a profit or not. Well, you just shut a bunch down that weren't claiming a profit. So there's a lot of things we can do that are going to have to align themselves with capitalism if you want to bring the money in, because money is capitalistic. That's not socialist money that investors are putting out. It's capitalist money. It needs to see that it can get a return. And we got more gold than any single country on the planet, and it's known, but it's going to take money.
So how do you do that? What do you need to do to bring back the Joe Barados, the Paralysis, those small guys who came in were like cockroaches, where they went where the big guys had been before and left, and boy, did they find gold that was payable. And of course, today with the gold price so much higher, you'd imagine that many of those old workings, many of those old mines would suddenly be very appealing. How do you get them back in?
You've got to have a policy framework that's conducive for that, Alec. You got to have rules and regulations that are accommodative for investors. And South Africa's got a reputation as a very risky country. Our MPRDA has probably been changed 4 or 5 times, and not for the better. It was a disaster when they launched it. And then every time we hear they're going to redo it, we build up this false optimism, and it's even worse. That's why we hear Gwede is doubling down. Cyril is doubling down, and they are. So come up with a good policy. Zambia are not intellectually superior to us, and neither is the DRC. But why were they able to just throw out the bombs, burn all those bad regulations and policies, and start afresh? They did. They started afresh about the time of the new millennium, and it's paying off. Tens of billions of dollars are going into there. They didn't fix their infrastructure. They didn't have cheap electricity. They just changed their policies, and then it came. And you can tweak it. You can say any mine deeper than 1,000 meters, you're going to give you 10 years grandfather clause, no taxes for the first 10 years, or we'll let you redeem your CAPEX at 12% a year instead of 10. There's a dozen things they can do. Have a roundtable conference like you do, and invite anybody who wants to open a mine in South Africa. Come to this roundtable. We're going to have government, mining representatives, and we're inviting all foreigners. Come and tell us what you want to see to bring your money in here and open mines.
I guess if you're sitting in Pretoria right now, you look around and you say, but the rand, is it below 16 to the dollar. We, 2.5 year high. The gold price is going up, sure, but people seem to think that we're a good place because our currency is stronger. As Ramaphosa said the other day, he was boasting about the rand's strength. Maybe there's a view from where they're sitting that everything's just fine, thank you, and there's the scoreboard.
Can I quote two famous people that can answer that very question? One of them is a guy named Pete Viljoen. The other one is somebody named Cecil Rhodes. They were asked that question, that exact question. What do we need to do to get even more investment, to be even more popular? And they had the same answer about 120 years apart. Cecil Rhodes answered, Wilhelm the Kaiser of Germany. He says, what can I do to be more popular and attractive like the UK? And Rhodes says, try doing nothing. Instead of all those goofy, crazy things you've been doing, try do nothing for a bit. And what did Pete Viljoen say on your program when you said, how come the rand's strengthening and things are looking better? And we got this GNU government that some people say is a hodgepodge and it's almost gridlock. Pete says, that's all we need, Alec. We need a little gridlock here just to slow down the government we've had. The less this government does, the better.
I love that Cecil John Rhodes quote from Max Hastings. Really, really interesting that he picked that one up. But he was saying that Kaiser Wilhelm was very similar to Donald Trump, and that's the road we don't want to go down. Although, perhaps gold bugs are saying, bring on more Trumps.
Well, you asked earlier, what do we need to do to bring in people like Ernest Oppenheimer, Cecil Rhodes, Punch Barlow? Why did they come here? Because it was wide open. Because there wasn't a strangulation of the status quo, the upper elite that managed everything. It was wide open. And we say it was the Wild West, but hey, there was probably less murders there with no rules and regulations. We got stringent rules and regulations here, and we still have 25,000 murders a year. So more regulations are not the answer. And why is America growing with Mr. Trump there? Is there opportunity in chaos? From what I've picked up, Alec, in the last 12 months, and I'm just on the mining side, but the guys tell me you can get your mining licenses quick now instead of years. Well, boy, doesn't that sound like South Africa? You can start prospecting in America in days and weeks because the BLM, MSHA, OSHA, forestry, they haven't abolished those departments, but they're a little bit afraid. And they don't want Trump to stare at them through the magnifying glass. So they're backing off. And they don't want people appealing to the courts. Why have we not got a response in 12 months when the law says we should get a response in 3 years? A lot of similarities in South Africa policy and legislation in that regard. So yeah, with Mr. Trump there, while there's chaos in a lot of aspects of America, he has opened up the hatch gates for drill, baby, drill, dig, baby, dig. And shouldn't we do that? Huh? That's the fastest way to turbocharge this economy and get rid of this high unemployment that Gwetty's complaining about.
You've done us a very good turn by pointing us towards Orion. The share price of Orion has doubled from where you said it was a good idea to buy it. And we bought our latest tranche now. We're doing it every month. We bought that in the 40s, whereas the first tranche we bought for 20. So that's really good news. Is there anything like that on the gold side? Are there any gold plays that could be another Orion in waiting?
Not listed in South Africa that I know of, Alec. And that's tragic. We had 62 listed gold mines here when I was getting into asset management, 89, 90, 91, 62 listed gold entities. So whatever the gold price did, you could find a couple of those entities that tied in just what you thought you wanted. And yeah, I cry. I don't think we've got 62 listed mining companies in South Africa now. This surge we've got could do it because it's not just us noticing it here. Had a nice talk with Eleni Geikos yesterday. I think you remember her very well. She remembers you very well. I haven't spoke to her probably close to a decade. She said, Peter, I've been trying to get CNN interested in mining for more than a decade. And they just say it's too small in terms of what's going on in the world, Eleni. It's just too small. It's off everybody's radar screen. They're not creating new mining companies. It's not a big percentage of the stock exchange. They're only in news for bad reasons. They had a lot of good reasons. She said literally, not even the last 2 or 3 months, it's now made it on CNN screen, and they want her to come. She didn't have to ask to come here, and they turned her down. They asked her, we think you got to get down to that Cape Town and Daba. We can see this mining is big. This gold is big. And you and I know it, huh? Gold ETFs, gold itself is now the largest single asset class on the planet with silver number 2. I never thought I would hear that. So yeah, it's good that CNN is waking up, I think at least 12 months too late. And you can bet if they're opening their eyes to mining, the other news stations are too. So that could lead, it is in the other countries, it's leading to a lot of new listings left and right. So we are getting further behind. Nobody could have asked for this kind of gold price and expected it. Let's capitalize on it. We should have 5, 10 listings a month here. We've got the resources, we got the assets. We just got to get rid of this horrendous investment environment, this horrendous policy and legislation maze or dome that prevents the money from getting in the country and building mines. And the politicians can do it. It's in their hands. It's not up to industry. It's not up to foreigners. It's up to our own politicians. They can do it.
That recent investment in the past week into US rare earths, I was thinking about Steenkamp-Krall at the same time. $1.6 billion that the American government has now put into that company. And that was for 10% of the business. And you think of Steenkamp-Krall, what they could do with $1.6 billion with their resources.
Alec, what they could do with $15 billion. I doubt they could spend $50 million. The mine's so developed, it's so shallow, it's so high grade. We know Trump has no problem printing money. He doesn't care what the interest rates are. He doesn't care what inflation is. He has no problem allocating money, borrowing money. We're over a $2 trillion deficit in the last 12 months, and it's probably going to get bigger for the next 3 years. That's why all these asset prices are going up now. They see inflation. You saw how much the dollar lost between last night and today. That added another $100 to the gold price. But yeah, what if we got some money? And what it takes to be an ally of Trump. Boy, get on his good side any way you can and get some of that money. Yeah, came out $1.5 billion. Geez, how many mines could we build for half of that here? How many? We could probably create 100,000 jobs in mining for $1.5 billion. Maybe not that, but 50,000 jobs. Yeah, I think that's realistic. Yeah, for a tiny rare earth mine, is that good value for money? If it was, I think the market would have funded that. He's probably paying over 5 times. We know it's hard enough for professional fund management companies to get it right more than 50% of the time. But when the governments start investing, we've seen all the disasters our government supposedly is investing, funding startups, funded for all the wrong reasons. And I'm afraid a lot of those in the States are going to prove to be the same. But boy, Sunshine Mine picked up $50 million when I was there this summer. All of a sudden, they were hiring people left and right, starting them out at $100,000. You didn't even have a job description. They just said, we got $50 million from the government to reopen Sunshine Mine, not because of the silver at the time, but it had a byproduct called antimony. Well, now that silver's on the CRECO list, Sunshine will probably get another $100 million.
Sure. Interesting times that we are living in, and I seem to be saying that a lot nowadays. Peter, before we move off the subject of the smaller mines, Orion, it now has a huge fan club, certainly within the BizNews tribe. They're looking to you as the guru. I did my numbers there, and I just took some very conservative intrinsic value. I came out at 118 cents a share, so I said, well, quite fine, quite happy for us to be buying it. 42, I think it was, the latest tranche. Are you of a similar mind that Orion has not reached its peak yet?
Well, without a doubt. When you and I started talking about this, Alec, 2-3 months ago, I was still quoting the old NAV at 75 cents. I don't even remember what the metal price was, but I know it was not $8,000 a ton. So let's assume it was 8 and it was 75, 80 cents value. Well, geez, if this copper price has gone from 8 to 13, you can certainly add that proportion. And we know mines have gearing, because the profits really increase exponentially. So yeah, you're to go from 75 to, when you say 117, I'll bet you on the lower spectrum. I'll bet it's probably closer to 135, 140. It's just extrapolating. Just see what the numbers on our platinum miners are doing. See what their revenue per ton is. Their revenue per ton in the last 12 months has gone from 155 to 365, 370. That's more than that's your revenue has doubled. So what are their earnings going to do? Go up threefold, fourfold? Remember how quick Sibanye and the rest of them, they were all tens of billions of debt. Sibanye alone, I think, had 35, 40 billion debt when COVID hit. And honest, half the guys in the company didn't think it was going to make it for 6 months. And yet, with that rise in PGM prices, in 18 months, that 35, 40 was gone. Another 12 months, I think they had 25, 30 cash on the balance sheet. So, and this government here is going to benefit, even though they're only mining 90 tons a year of gold instead of 650. These gold mines are going to have earning multiples going up, 2, 3, 4 times their earnings, and the taxes are going to go up that exponential. And that's why you don't need complicated formulas, a basic taxation policy as we had before. You get it. You don't have to add royalties to an unprofitable industry and force them to pay when they're losing money and think we're really showing them and helping the country. That's not helping the country. That's closing mines that were marginal for years, but they still employed hundreds of thousands of people. The government is going to benefit as much, if not more, than the shareholders.
Peter, when we have a look at a business person, let's just say Patrice Motsepe, and there's quite a lot of support for his candidacy to become the president of the ANC, and some think by definition president of the country. It's not a given anymore. But how would he see things differently? He's a miner. He's a guy who understands mining, he understands business, he understands the multiplier effect. He's also the current president's brother-in-law. So you'd think if he really knew these things so well, he'd also be at least whispering into the ear of the right people. But if he were to become the president of South Africa, do you think he could make a difference to the mining sector?
Absolutely. And he wouldn't have to do very much. He could say, in view of everything that's gone on for the last 30 years, in view of what we're currently seeing in commodity prices and investment destinations, I am calling for a complete rewriting of our Minerals Act. He could do it like that. And you know what? He'd have more fans than enemies. That's all he's got to do. And he could copy some countries verbatim. I always worry about that because each country is a bit different. And South Africa's policy evolved over 100 some years. It was tailored to deep level gold mines. It was tailored to expensive high electricity refineries like the platinum mines had. So, I would go back and look, where was our legislation in the 90s and do some tweaking, modernize it a bit. And you might have to do more tweaking because you're trying to get people to come back into the rat trap that are going to need something extra. They're not going to need the same old legislation you had in the 90s. They're going to need something better. But start with, I want legislation that creates jobs. And then secondary, I want legislation that puts money in government coffers without killing the companies that are paying the money. And he could do it. What worries me a little bit about Patrice, he likes playing to the audience, which is okay if you adjust when the audience is correct. But I remember him defending B on quite a few occasions, saying, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think we need it. He can say like John Kennedy, yes, I said that at one time, but the facts have changed, and therefore I've changed. So yeah, Patrice, I definitely vote for him to be head of the ANC. He's got my vote. Not sure I vote for him to be president yet. He'd have to show some good signs before then, but he would definitely get my vote to head the ANC, without a doubt.
And potentially a new mining minister as well. When the mining industry around the world gets together, like at the Mining Indaba, which is just around the corner, how do they treat Gwede Mantashe? Are they sycophantic towards him? Do they kowtow to him? Do they challenge him?
I've never seen them sycophantic to him or our president. I sometimes think the audience and the other dignitaries give them a little over special treatment, but not sycophantic, not rah-rah, over the top, a little bit of that. But I've also seen it deteriorate, Alec. When Mr. Ramaphosa took over, he gave a good speech. He's talking about people being in orange jumpsuits. None of this is going to happen anymore, none of that. Everybody at the Indaba gave him the benefit of the doubt. Friends, family, foes, we all gave him the benefit of the doubt. But when you hear a similar speech year after year and you keep reading the headlines and seeing the results, now Gwede, he got the benefit of the doubt as well, but not as much as Cyril. And I've seen the people, they're not abusive to him, but they're challenging him on almost everything because he's got his heels dug in all the way. The only thing I've seen him relent on, Alec, this whole period he's been minister, was he did remove the requirement to have a BE when you apply for a prospecting right. And you'd think he was giving away the whole treasury by doing that. And he was so scared when he did it that he didn't announce it in the government gazette. Nobody knew he took it out until I think David Mackay at Miningweb had the audacity to ask him that quietly towards the end of his talk at the Johannesburg Rhine Indaba. And he didn't say, I took it out. He said, well, did you see it? And Dave says, no, I couldn't find it. So I was was it a mistip or what? Gwede says, well, if you didn't see it, then maybe it's not in there. So he said, what does that mean, Gwede? Well, if it's not in there, then why are you bringing it up? Why are you bringing up things that aren't in there? But then we asked him, well, nobody knew about it till right now. And do your branches know about it? And he never informed his branches that we know. There was never an official. So the branches kept asking for BE. So nobody got nobody got a prospecting license without putting in BE, even though Gwede finally admitted it was taken out of the act. That was his 2 cents to try and stimulate more exploration. But it's too weak, and it was done reluctantly. We don't want to come in here if the minister has to reluctantly take it out in secret. We don't want to come in here because two government officials asked me to go set up a round table in the States and tell the big mining companies they can come in here and there's a side door, they won't have to use BE. That's not going to bring investment. Just be bold, change the legislation appropriately.
They live in a different universe sometimes. Unfortunately, we are this little country at the edge of Africa. Geographical distance sometimes just confuses people that we don't really know what we don't know. And I think that's something through history that has been the downfall of many nations and certainly many people. Just to close off with, this is the hottest ticket in town at the moment, mining, and in particular precious metals mining. So would you anticipate that if there is just a little bit of a red carpet that is shown to foreign investors, that something could break at the forthcoming Mining Indaba, that maybe, just maybe, a new direction can be installed?
I'll answer that in a second. Alec, have you got any government ministers coming to the Indaba signed up officially yet? Or maybe their DGs are under them? Because if any of them came, what an opportunity to make this kind of break. And I would say, yes, lay out a red carpet just in case it attracts them, just in case it attracts some heavyweight foreign investors. Because I'll give you a good analogy. I was going to hang myself when COVID hit. We were battling to get any investing. I think we'd done 2 transactions in 10 years in corporate finance. to get money into South Africa mining. 2 deals in 10 years. We were in rags, starving. COVID hit. Now the whole world's going into depression. I'm committing suicide. I never found a rope that held me. 3 months later, my phone started ringing. And it started ringing with people I knew well that I'd been begging to invest here, showing them great deals. They said, Pete, we don't like South Africa any more than before. We probably hate it even more. But we are so desperate. There's no projects out there. And look at these metal prices. The phone is still ringing, Alec. It's still ringing. And it's not because government improved the policies. They made them worse. It's because the demand for metals is out there and the world is awash in cash. And all we need is it to start having second thoughts. Maybe Bitcoin and AI doesn't need all their money. Maybe they should diversify into some mines that produce copper, nickel, zinc, silver, gold, rare earths. So despite our government, there's people with money looking here, and some are going to take the risk anyways. I'm just saying it'd be great if government would open the doors so they didn't have to sneak in through the cracks or do it wearing a spy suit and a top hat. But yeah, your conference would be a perfect time for that to happen. And
Peter
maybe
Major,
the big Indaba here.
Yeah. Well, it's Peter Major leaving some very useful ideas for Pretoria. He's with Modern Corporate Solutions. I'm Alec Hogg from biznews.com.